There comes a time in every woman's life when she must stop waiting for permission to feel powerful. There comes a time when she must take her trembling heart into her own two hands and say, "You belong to me, and I will teach you how to be strong." A strong woman does not come from ease or comfort. She is born from the ashes of doubt, from the cold silence of rejection, from the years when she thought she was not enough. She is shaped by storms, and she learns to dance in the thunder. A strong woman does not beg for strength. She becomes strength. She does not seek love to be seen. She becomes love so bright that others must shade their eyes to behold her. When the world told her to sit still, she stood tall. When they told her to stay quiet, she sang louder. When they told her that her softness was weakness, she learned that tenderness is not surrender. It is courage that chooses compassion in a world that rewards cruelty. But she also learned that strength and softness must coexist in balance. For a woman who gives all her empathy to others and none to herself will slowly starve her own soul. There are feelings that destroy us, feelings that whisper we are small, feelings that chain us to yesterday's pain. A strong woman learns to kill those weak feelings, not by denying that they exist, but by refusing to let them rule her. She kills self-pity by gratitude. She kills fear by faith. She kills envy by knowing her worth. She kills loneliness by embracing her own company. She kills guilt by forgiving herself for being human. Weak feelings have a sweet voice. They speak softly. They come disguised as friends. They say, "You're tired. You don't need to try today." They say, "You'll never be as good as her." They say, "You are too broken to begin again." But a strong woman hears them and says, "I have heard this song before, and I will not dance to it again." She learns that not every emotion deserves a throne. Some must be buried with yesterday's tears, because no woman can rise while carrying the coffin of her old self. To kill weak feelings does not mean to lose kindness. It means to protect peace. It means to stop apologizing for existing. It means to stop shrinking so that others can stand taller. A strong woman learns that dimming her light does not make others glow. It only makes the world darker. And so she stands radiant and unapologetic, even when her voice shakes, even when her knees tremble, even when no one claps. Strength is not loud. It is quiet resilience. It is the power to walk away from what does not serve your soul without needing the world's approval. It is the ability to love yourself enough to say, "No more." It is the wisdom to know that peace is better than attention, and that silence can be louder than anger. A strong woman does not waste her energy proving her worth to those who refuse to see it. She knows that her value is not negotiable. She has cried enough tears to fill rivers, but those rivers carried her toward wisdom. She has walked through fire, but she does not smell of smoke. She smells of survival. She has faced betrayal and learned that loyalty to herself must come first. She has lost people who once promised forever, but she learned that losing them was not the end. It was the beginning of her return to herself. When the heart is broken, weak feelings whisper that it will never heal. But a strong woman gathers the pieces and builds a mosaic out of her pain. She learns that her scars are not ugly. They are proof that she fought and did not die. Every scar is a verse in her story. Every wound a testament to her endurance. She does not hide them under makeup or polite smiles. She wears them like medals of survival. Weak feelings say, "You are alone." But she smiles, for she knows that solitude is sacred. She knows that being alone does not mean being empty. It means being full of her own company, her own dreams, her own laughter. She sips tea with her thoughts, and she builds empires in her mind. She talks to herself not in criticism but in comfort. She says, "You are doing fine, my dear. You have come so far." A strong woman kills weak feelings every morning before she leaves her bed. She kills the feeling that says, "Stay asleep." She kills the voice that says, "You can't." She rises, stretches her weary limbs, and greets the mirror with gratitude. She says, "I am still here." And that is enough reason to fight again. The world has never been kind to women who own their power. It fears them. It names them difficult, dramatic, defiant. But a strong woman knows that those labels are the trembling language of insecurity. She has no time to defend her strength to fragile egos. She has no time to explain that fire does not apologize for burning. She has no need to be liked by those who cannot understand her truth. She walks into rooms with her back straight and her head high, not because she wants attention, but because she remembers the years she walked with her head bowed. She remembers the weight of silence and the taste of swallowed words. She remembers when her dreams were too heavy to carry, yet she carried them anyway. That memory keeps her humble. That pain keeps her grounded. That history keeps her grateful. A strong woman kills weak feelings by nurturing her mind. She reads, she learns, she grows. She feeds her soul with wisdom instead of gossip, with patience instead of pride. She knows that true power is not in muscles or money, but in self-control. She refuses to let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. She breathes before she reacts. She listens before she speaks. She thinks before she forgives, and she forgives before she forgets. That is her discipline. Quiet, steady, and sacred. She has learned that anger can destroy, but it can also awaken. She does not let her anger rot. She lets it teach her boundaries. She lets it show her where her peace ends and her power begins. Weak feelings say, "Take revenge." Strong women say, "Take your lesson." Because revenge feeds the wound, but wisdom heals it. She has learned that love is not a battlefield where she must die to prove devotion. Love is a sanctuary where both souls grow. And if it is not, she walks away with dignity. She does not beg to be chosen, for she has already chosen herself. She does not chase, for she knows that what is meant for her will come in peace, not chaos. She has learned that real love never requires her to betray her own reflection. A strong woman kills weak feelings by embracing her truth. All of it, even the parts that make others uncomfortable. She does not hide her age, her stretch marks, her failures. She does not pretend to be perfect, because she knows perfection is a prison. She is real, and realness is power. She can laugh at herself, cry without shame, and rise without applause. She knows that authenticity is her armor. When life breaks her down, she does not curse the ground, she plants seeds in it. She believes that every loss carries a lesson, and every ending hides a beginning. She knows that the universe does not take without purpose. When doors close, she builds windows. When bridges burn, she learns to swim. When people leave, she learns that she was never meant to be anchored to those who cannot sail beside her. Weak feelings make excuses. Strong women make progress. Weak feelings wait for rescue. Strong women become their own saviors. Weak feelings dwell on the pain. Strong women transform it into poetry, into prayer, into purpose. She does not kill her emotions, she commands them. She feels deeply, but she does not drown. She allows herself to cry, but she does not camp in sorrow. She honors her pain without worshiping it. She has learned that strength is not about never falling. It is about rising faster each time she does. Every time life knocks her down, she returns stronger, wiser, softer, and still willing to love. Because that is what makes a woman strong. Not the hardness of her heart, but its resilience. She can be gentle and still powerful. She can be kind and still firm. She can forgive and still remember. She can love and still leave. She can bend and still not break. That is her paradox, her poetry, her power. The world may test her, mock her, doubt her. But it cannot defeat her, because she has learned the art of endurance. She has learned that storms do not come to destroy her. They come to remind her how to dance in the rain. She has learned that her worth is not defined by validation, but by the way she stands after every fall. She has learned that faith is not something you find. It is something you build when you have nothing else left. There will be days when she feels weary again, when the weak feelings return knocking at her heart's door. But she will remember how far she has come. She will remember the nights she thought she wouldn't survive. She will remember the battles no one saw, the tears no one dried, the prayers whispered into the dark. And she will smile, because she knows she has been her own miracle all along. A strong woman kills weak feelings every time she chooses herself over a fear. Every time she speaks truth when silence would be safer. Every time she says no when her voice trembles. Every time she forgives when anger would be easier. Every time she keeps loving when the world tells her to harden. She kills weak feelings not by violence, but by rising. And if she ever doubts her strength, she only needs to look behind her, to see the mountain of days she has already climbed, the storms she has already endured, the hearts she has already healed, the pain she has already turned into wisdom. She is the proof that the spirit of a woman cannot be broken by what was meant to destroy her. She is the embodiment of survival, grace, and unshakable will. A strong woman is not born, she is created. By time, by struggle, by persistence. She is the sum of every time she said, "I will not give up." She is the daughter of resilience and the mother of self-respect. She is both fire and water, both steel and silk. And when she walks through the world, the ground remembers her footsteps. So when weak feelings whisper, she does not argue. She smiles and says, "You no longer belong to me." Because she has learned that peace is sacred, that joy is her right, that strength is her inheritance. She has learned that a strong woman kills weak feeling, not to become heartless, but to become whole. And when the day ends and she sits alone in the quiet, she breathes and thanks the heavens for another chance to be herself. She thanks the storms that taught her stillness. She thanks the pain that taught her compassion. She thanks the endings that taught her beginnings. She thanks her reflection for surviving everything that tried to erase her. She whispers to her soul, "You are enough." Because that is the truth she has finally learned. She was never fragile, never small, never weak. She was only learning the depth of her power. And now that she knows nothing can unmake her, nothing can bend her spirit, nothing can steal her song. For a strong woman kills weak feeling, not out of hate, but out of love. Love for her peace, love for her purpose, love for her power, and love for the woman she has finally become. True strength is born from the moments a woman refuses to surrender to her pain. It is not found in the days when everything goes right, but in the long nights when everything seems lost, and yet she chooses to rise again. The world may never see her tears, may never hear the breaking inside her chest, but that quiet defiance, that decision to breathe through the ache, is where strength is born. It is in the trembling hands that still reach for tomorrow, in the weary eyes that still search for light, in the heart that still believes even after being shattered 1,000 times. A strong woman does not escape pain. She walks through it with grace, allowing it to shape her without allowing it to define her. Every disappointment becomes a teacher, every loss a lesson, every heartbreak a doorway to wisdom. She learns that strength is not about pretending to be unbreakable. It is about understanding that even in pieces, she can still move forward. Pain tries to persuade her to stop, to shrink, to settle. It tells her that she has done enough, that the world is too heavy, that her spirit is too tired. But she remembers that she has been tired before, and still moved mountains. She remembers that she has been afraid before, and still found her voice. She remembers that she has been broken before, and still rebuilt herself from dust. True strength lives in memory. It grows from every scar that healed, from every storm she survived, from every moment she thought she couldn't but did anyway. It is not loud or boastful, it hums quietly in her soul, reminding her that survival itself is a sacred act of rebellion. When life tests her, when everything she loves is stripped away, she does not crumble entirely, she bends. She bends so she does not break. She allows herself to feel the ache, but does not let it paralyze her. She knows that healing is not immediate, that some wounds take time, but she also knows that the mere act of choosing to heal is proof of her strength. The choice to keep living, to keep trying, to keep believing. Those choices become the roots of her resilience. She carries herself with the silent dignity of one who has suffered and yet remained kind. Her pain has taught her empathy. Her struggle has taught her patience. She has learned to listen more, to judge less, to forgive deeply, to love carefully. She understands now that pain was not sent to destroy her but to awaken her. Each time she refuses to surrender, a new version of her is born, wiser, softer, braver. She may not see it at first, but every time she rises, the world shifts slightly in her favor. Her strength becomes a quiet revolution, proof that no pain lasts forever, and no woman is defined by her wounds. True strength is born from the moments a woman refuses to surrender to her pain. It is not found in the days when everything goes right, but in the long nights when everything seems lost, and yet she chooses to rise again. The world may never see her tears, may never hear the breaking inside her chest, but that quiet defiance, that decision to breathe through the ache, is where strength is born. It is in the trembling hands that still reach for tomorrow, in the weary eyes that still search for light, in the heart that still believes, even after being shattered 1,000 times. A strong woman does not escape pain, she walks through it with grace, allowing it to shape her without allowing it to define her. Every disappointment becomes a teacher, every loss a lesson, every heartbreak a doorway to wisdom. She learns that strength is not about pretending to be unbreakable. It is about understanding that even in pieces, she can still move forward. Pain tries to persuade her to stop, to shrink, to settle. It tells her that she has done enough, that the world is too heavy, that her spirit is too tired. But she remembers that she has been tired before and still moved mountains. She remembers that she has been afraid before and still found her voice. She remembers that she has been broken before and still rebuilt herself from dust. True strength lives in memory. It grows from every scar that healed, from every storm she survived, from every moment she thought she couldn't but did anyway. It is not loud or boastful. It hums quietly in her soul, reminding her that survival itself is a sacred act of rebellion. When life tests her, when everything she loves is stripped away, she does not crumble entirely, she bends. She bends so she does not break. She allows herself to feel the ache, but does not let it paralyze her. She knows that healing is not immediate, that some wounds take time. But she also knows that the mere act of choosing to heal is proof of her strength. The choice to keep living, to keep trying, to keep believing. Those choices become the roots of her resilience. She carries herself with the silent dignity of one who has suffered and yet remained kind. Her pain has taught her empathy. Her struggle has taught her patience. She has learned to listen more, to judge less, to forgive deeply, to love carefully. She understands now that pain was not sent to destroy her but to awaken her. Each time she refuses to surrender, a new version of her is born, wiser, softer, braver. She may not see it at first, but every time she rises, the world shifts slightly in her favor. Her strength becomes a quiet revolution, proof that no pain lasts forever and no woman is defined by her wounds. A strong woman does not seek validation, she builds peace within. She learns, often through pain, that seeking approval from others is like chasing the horizon, beautiful but unreachable. She realizes that no matter how much she gives, there will always be someone who believes it is not enough. There will always be voices that misunderstand her softness, that question her confidence, that criticize her silence. But the day she stops chasing validation is the day she begins to breathe freely. She finds serenity not in being accepted, but in accepting herself. She builds her peace like a home, brick by brick, memory by memory, lesson by lesson. Each act of self-respect becomes a foundation stone, each moment of forgiveness another wall. Her peace does not come from perfection, it comes from permission. The permission to exist without explanation. When she was younger, she thought happiness was something people gave each other. She thought love would heal her wounds, that applause would quiet her doubts. But as she grew, she discovered that real peace cannot be gifted, it must be cultivated. It grows in the quiet hours, when she sits with her thoughts and listens to her heart's whisper. It grows when she stops apologizing for the parts of herself that others could not understand. It grows when she releases the need to be chosen by those who never saw her light. She begins to understand that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of calm amid chaos. It is the ability to smile softly even when life shouts in her face. It is knowing that not every battle is worth her energy, and not every opinion deserves her response. There is a deep calm in a woman who has stopped explaining herself. Her presence carries a silence that unsettles the unsteady. Her stillness becomes her strength. She has learned that when the world does not understand her, it is not her task to translate her soul. She no longer bends her back to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. Instead, she stands tall in her own truth and allows others to adjust their vision. Peace becomes her rebellion against chaos, her armor against noise. The woman who builds peace within herself becomes untouchable. Not because she hides from life, but because she no longer allows life to dictate her worth. She can face criticism and remain kind. She can face rejection and remain whole. Her validation comes from the quiet certainty that she is doing her best, that her heart is pure, and that her journey is hers alone. Her peace is sacred and she guards it fiercely. Not with anger, but with boundaries. She knows now that validation fades, but peace remains. It is the soft power that hums beneath her ribs, the steady rhythm that carries her through storms, the gentle reminder that she does not need the world's permission to be enough. A strong woman does not seek validation. She builds peace within. She no longer waits for someone to tell her she is beautiful, worthy, or enough, because she has learned that external approval is as fleeting as wind. There was a time when she searched for affirmation in every smile, every compliment, every small gesture of acceptance. She shaped herself to please others, to be liked, to be understood, to be chosen. But the more she tried to fit into their expectations, the more she lost pieces of herself. One day, she looked into the mirror and saw a stranger staring back, a woman molded by the world's noise instead of her own truth. That day, she decided to stop living for applause and start living for peace. She realized that validation is not love. It is dependency dressed in attention. And she deserved more than temporary reassurance. She deserved the quiet, lasting peace that only self-respect can bring. She began the work of rebuilding herself from the inside. It was not easy. It never is. She had to face her fears, her insecurities, her guilt. She had to unlearn the idea that being loved by others was proof of her value. She had to sit with her silence and hear her own heartbeat without fear. In that silence, she found clarity. She found the understanding that the only opinion that can ever truly define her is her own. She learned to separate noise from truth, flattery from sincerity, attention from affection. She started to see that peace does not come from what others think of her, but from what she believes about herself when no one is watching. She began to find comfort in her solitude, to enjoy the stillness that used to scare her, to find home within her own soul. Each day she stopped looking outward and turned inward instead. She started to validate her own journey, to celebrate her own progress, to forgive her own mistakes. She began to speak to herself with gentleness, the way she once spoke to those she loved. She learned that inner peace is not the reward of the unhurt, it is the creation of the healed. And every time she chose calm over conflict, self-trust over doubt, truth over pretense, her spirit grew stronger. Her peace became her shield, her quiet strength, her hidden crown. She no longer needed to explain herself to those who misunderstood her, because she understood herself completely. Now, when others misunderstand her calm as indifference, she does not correct them. When they call her silence arrogance, she does not defend herself. She smiles softly, because she knows peace is not for the world to approve. It is for the soul to protect. She carries herself not with pride but with presence. Her peace hums softly beneath her words, in her walk, in her gaze. It is her foundation, her freedom, her power. Every time she chooses courage over comfort, her spirit evolves. She learns that growth does not happen in the warmth of safety, but in the fire of challenge. Life tests her not to break her, but to introduce her to the woman she is capable of becoming. Each moment she steps out of the familiar, she sheds a layer of fear. She has known the comfort of smallness, the ease of silence, the safety of staying unseen, but something inside her always whispered for more. That whisper becomes a roar when she realizes that comfort has kept her hidden from her own greatness. She begins to understand that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the quiet decision to move forward in spite of it. The trembling hands, the uncertain steps, the racing heart, all become proof of her transformation. Courage teaches her to face herself first. It shows her the mirror of truth and demands honesty. It asks her to confront the patterns that kept her still, the relationships that kept her weak, the voices that made her doubt her worth. It is in these moments that she discovers her strength, not as something she wears like armor, but as something that rises from within her like light through darkness. She starts to realize that fear has been both her prison and her teacher. It showed her where she was small, but courage showed her how to grow beyond that smallness. Each time she chooses courage over comfort, she rebuilds her relationship with herself. She starts to trust her instincts, to honor her boundaries, to believe in her intuition. The world around her may not always understand her choices. They might call her reckless when she takes risks, or stubborn when she refuses to settle. But she knows that courage often looks like rebellion to those who fear change. She learns to listen to her inner voice even when it trembles, to take leaps without guarantees, to love without certainty. She learns that courage is the path of becoming, painful, unpredictable, but necessary. The more she listens to that inner call, the stronger her spirit becomes. Her courage does not make her invincible. It makes her real. It teaches her that mistakes are not failures but directions, that rejection is not an end but redirection. With every act of courage, she uncovers a new version of herself. She realizes that she can stand in the storm without losing her ground, that she can be afraid and still take action. She starts to find beauty in her own bravery, to see that every step away from comfort brings her closer to authenticity. Her spirit, once fragile and unsure, begins to shine with quiet strength. Each act of courage shapes her into a woman who no longer needs to be saved because she has learned to save herself. Each act of courage becomes a declaration that she is alive, awake, and willing to grow. She learns to master emotion, not be mastered by it. There was a time when her heart ruled every choice, when every word spoken to her could shift the direction of her spirit. A look, a silence, a rejection could unravel her calm and make her question her worth. She felt everything so deeply that it became both her gift and her burden. But life taught her that emotions are powerful servants and dangerous masters. She began to understand that to live freely, she must learn to hold her feelings without letting them hold her. It was not about becoming cold or distant. It was about finding balance between feeling and wisdom. She realized that emotion is energy, and when she learns to guide it, it becomes strength rather than weakness. She starts to observe her emotions as they come, to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking. The anger that once made her reckless becomes a signal that her boundaries have been crossed. The sadness that once made her retreat becomes a message to nurture herself. The fear that once froze her becomes a reminder that she is stepping into growth. She learns that emotion itself is not the enemy. It is the way she responds that determines her peace. Mastery comes through awareness, through the ability to feel without drowning, to care without losing herself, to cry without breaking. Each time she chooses calm over chaos, she gains power over herself. The world often mistakes emotional control for indifference, but she knows better. It takes great strength to feel deeply and still act with clarity. It takes discipline to walk away from what provokes you, to remain gentle when provoked, to speak truth without venom. She learns that silence can be stronger than reaction, that patience can disarm conflict, that peace can protect more than pride ever could. She practices listening to her inner dialogue, questioning the emotions that rise suddenly, asking them where they come from, what they need, what truth they are trying to show. In time, she begins to trust her emotions not as commands, but as companions that walk beside her, never ahead of her. When pain comes, she no longer fights it, she studies it. When joy visits, she does not cling to it. She embraces it and lets it flow. She learns the rhythm of emotional freedom, the way it moves like waves, sometimes calm, sometimes fierce, but always passing. She understands that peace is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of response. She starts to carry an aura of quiet steadiness, one that others feel when they are near her. Her composure is not emptiness, it is depth contained. Her eyes no longer mirror chaos, but reflect calm seas that have known storms and survived them. She becomes the kind of woman who feels everything, yet allows nothing to control her. Killing weak feelings is not cruelty. It is an act of self-love. It is the moment a woman decides to stop nurturing the emotions that keep her small, to stop feeding the thoughts that convince her she is unworthy, to stop carrying the burdens that do not belong to her. It is not about becoming hardened or unfeeling. It is about choosing herself after years of choosing everything and everyone else first. A strong woman learns that letting go of weakness is not betrayal. It is healing. She understands that some feelings must die so that peace can live. The doubt, the guilt, the fear, the constant need to please. They once had a purpose. They once protected her, but now they only hold her back. She begins to see that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet and deliberate, like a breath drawn before a new beginning. She kills weak feelings when she stops apologizing for being too much or too little. She kills them when she stops comparing her life to the lives of others, when she stops measuring her worth by achievements or opinions. She kills them when she finally accepts that being human is not a flaw but a miracle. For so long she believed she had to be perfect to deserve peace. She thought love was something to earn, not something to embody. But with time, she learned that weak feelings grow in the soil of self-rejection. When she began to love herself, truly, deeply, patiently, the weeds of insecurity started to wither. They no longer had light to thrive in. She replaced self-doubt with self-trust, replaced criticism with compassion, replaced shame with understanding. Slowly, her heart began to breathe again. Weak feelings thrive on noise, on overthinking, on worry, on the endless loop of what-ifs. So she learned to create silence, to sit with herself in stillness until her soul spoke louder than her fear. In that silence she found truth. The truth that she is not broken but evolving. The truth that she is not behind but on her own divine timing. The truth that she has always been enough, even in her mess, even in her confusion. And every time she remembers that truth, another weak feeling dies quietly. It dies because truth is its natural antidote. Truth dissolves insecurity the way dawn dissolves the night. She kills weak feelings when she stops letting pain define her. She no longer allows her past to dictate her future. She no longer carries the old voices that told her she wasn't capable, wasn't beautiful, wasn't worthy of love. She rewrites the script. She replaces, "I can't," with, "I will." She replaces, "I'm not ready," with, "I'm learning." She replaces, "I don't deserve it," with, "I am enough." Every affirmation becomes a weapon against weakness. Every kind word to herself a healing balm. She learns that self-love is not indulgence, it is survival. It is standing in front of the mirror and choosing to see power instead of flaws, to see potential instead of failure, to see progress instead of imperfection. She understands now that to love herself fiercely is not arrogance. It is the only way to stay alive in a world that profits from her insecurity. Weak feelings once made her seek validation, made her chase affection from those who could not see her light. She wanted to be chosen so badly that she forgot she could choose herself. But now she has learned that self-worth is not a trophy to be handed out by others. It is a foundation she builds with her own hands. When she kills weak feelings, she no longer begs for love that costs her peace. She no longer explains her boundaries as if they require permission. She no longer hides her sensitivity, because she knows her softness is not weakness, it is divine strength. Her tears are not shameful, they are cleansing. Her silence is not emptiness, it is sacred. Each time she chooses herself, she kills another weak feeling. Each time she walks away from a place that no longer values her, she kills another doubt. Each time she speaks truth when her voice trembles, she kills another fear. Each time she forgives without losing herself, she kills another bitterness. Her self-love is not loud or proud. It is steady and relentless. It lives in her decisions, in her boundaries, in the way she honors her energy. She does not allow every hand to touch her spirit anymore. She has learned that not everyone deserves access to her heart. Protecting her peace is not isolation, it is wisdom. She gives, but she does not bleed. She loves, but she does not lose herself in love. She stands, but she does not bend for approval. Killing weak feelings means understanding that not all emotions are sacred. Some are illusions that keep her attached to old pain. She no longer romanticizes struggle. She does not wear suffering as a badge of honor. She knows now that peace is her birthright, not something she must earn through hardship. She embraces joy without guilt. She laughs without apology. She lets herself rest without explaining why. Her self-love is revolutionary. It refuses to shrink in the face of expectations. It refuses to silence itself for comfort. It refuses to be dimmed by judgment. Her strength is quiet but unwavering, rooted in self-knowledge and watered by experience. There are days when weak feelings return, when doubt knocks softly at her door, when sadness whispers in her ear. But she no longer fears them. She invites them in, listens, learns, and then releases them. She understands now that mastery is not about never feeling weakness. It is about refusing to let it stay. She greets her fears like passing storms, acknowledging their presence, knowing they will go. She no longer identifies with temporary emotions. She observes them. She knows who she is beyond what she feels. She knows her worth is unshaken by moods, untouched by opinions, untethered from approval. Her peace is built from within, and no passing cloud can block her sun for long. She kills weak feelings not through harshness but through compassion. She speaks to her inner child softly, telling her that it's safe now, that she doesn't need to chase love or perfection anymore. She holds herself the way she wished others had held her. She learns that the most radical act of love is to stop wounding herself with the same stories that hurt her once. She releases what is heavy, what is hollow, what is false. She forgives the woman she was when she didn't know better, and she honors the woman she is becoming now. She learns that healing is not forgetting, It is remembering without pain. The woman who kills weak feelings becomes her own light. Her laughter carries power. Her silence carries weight. Her presence commands calm. She no longer moves from desperation but from intention. She no longer reacts, she responds. She no longer waits to be saved because she has become her own sanctuary. Her love for herself radiates in how she walks, how she speaks, how she shows up. She does not need to announce her strength. It is evident in her peace. She kills weak feelings by choosing truth over illusion, faith over fear, and love over lack. She kills them each day by remembering who she is and who she refuses to become again. She kills them not to be invincible, but to be free.